Today I am reviewing Soul Hunter by Dembski-Bowden. The hardest thing about doing a review is being critical of something you really love. Much like the followers of the Emperor are blinded by his radiance, or the followers of the Chaos Gods are blinded by hatred, it is sometimes difficult to see the flaws in such a sterling example of writing. However, I'll try to do my best here. Soul Hunter follows Talos, who is a former apothecary turned sergeant, hit with maddening prophetical visions regarding the Legion and its warriors. He is devoted to the Legion, when all those around him have largely lost their faith in the past, shunned by those they once loved, and losing their Primarch to an assassin's blade. There's little left for them to feel a sense of attachment to, after a past filled with distrust. The Primarch's sacrifice, in order to prove a point, tastes especially bittersweet in the mouths of all the legionaries, and leaves an indelible impression on the legionaries' outlooks for long afterwards. So these guys hate, and are used to it. The Legion is made up of murderers and rapists, and it never really leaves your mind as you read this book. To oversimplify the intricate and interesting interactions between the main characters, we'll use Talos' childhood acquaintance. Friend doesn't really cut it. Zal tells Talos that he hates him, but trusts him. As these two have known each other since youth, one can imagine what the depth of hatred the Chaos Marines who don't get used to each other can be like. Yet this is nothing out of the ordinary. Chaos Marines are supposed to be pretty angry and hate-filled. One feels like Zal and Talos should be friends, and there is a certain degree of evidence to back this up. They're at least more friendly than normal for Chaos Marines, in my eyes. Another example of characters being quite multifaceted is when Zal seemingly hates Uzas throughout the book, but is more worried about Syrian as a threat to the unity of their squad when he talks to Talos. So the point I'm trying to make here is that they aren't simple enough to just be hate-filled Chaos Marines you might find in other books. The same can be said for the other characters. Syrian, who is very often sarcastic, but often serious too. Uzas, rage-filled but uncharacteristically pleased watching a legendary and inspirational warrior of the Legion fight, and voicing his delight at this to the bemusement of his squad mates. The action in the book rarely feels directionless, but has repercussions that become apparent later on. During the action, the pervading feeling of whether Talos and his squad mates have bitten off more than they can chew is always present. For me, this is the hallmark of tense and exciting action that has purpose and unexpectedness in every line. The imagery is also of a superb quality. The strike cruiser of the 10th Company has a definite, unique Night Lord's feel to it, and the pathetic fallacy of a ship permanently entrenched in darkness, echoing the hopeless outlook of the human slave contingent on the ship, is often felt, without being explicitly stated. The characters' facial expressions, actions, and movements are subtly different, and these mannerisms enable you to feel more at one with the characters, as if they have nuances not only in character, but in the physical way they do things too. The plot is great, with tension building at several moments, and a nice end with memorable moments. The book is saturated with excerpts from the Legion's past at the start of the chapters, which was a nice touch that you could imagine were pieces Talos had permanently memorized. Flashbacks that occur like this are well placed and don't break up the story obtrusively. So in conclusion, it is very hard to criticize this book. The characters brought the grim darkness of the far future to life, and the characters emanate a wealth of interesting emotions, rivalries, and decisions. It's a book without a hero, but this is actually a refreshing change. One could argue Uzas was a bit generic as a dumb brute of a character, or that Mercutian is a bit faceless, lacking the personality of the other characters. Uzas develops slowly in this book, but I do feel Mercutian wasn't given enough time. So there, I did my best, but it's hard to criticize a masterpiece. If you haven't read it by now, you're missing out on not only one of the best Warhammer 40,000 books, but possibly one of the best in the genre. Thank you for listening.